Taking time for silence allows your mind and soul to reset in ways constant noise never can. In the modern world, silence is rare and often undervalued. We fill our days with endless distractions, phones buzzing, conversations flowing, media streaming, so much so that many of us have forgotten what it means to simply be quiet. But silence is not emptiness. It is a rich, fertile space where the mind can settle, where the soul can breathe, and where true rest begins. When you intentionally create moments of silence, you give yourself a chance to step out of the chaos and reconnect with your inner self. This reconnection is essential because it helps you distinguish between the noise of the world and the voice of your own truth. Without silence, you learn to stop chasing closure from others because you've found peace within. You stop needing validation because you've remembered your worth. You stop running from the past because you've made peace with it in the stillness of your own heart. Healing in silence isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about taking the time to actually become okay. And when you finally return to the world, you do so with clarity, confidence, and calm. Not louder, but deeper. Not harder, but softer. Not broken, but whole. There is something deeply sacred about not having to explain yourself while you're healing. No pressure to perform your pain. No need to convince others that you're getting better. Just you, your truth, your tears, your progress. Unfiltered and uninterrupted. You begin to reconnect with parts of yourself that were silenced by survival mode. You rediscover your voice, your passions, your strength. You learn to soothe yourself, to motivate yourself, to validate and in doing so, you become your own sanctuary. The most beautiful part of healing in silence is the transformation that occurs when no one is watching. You emerge stronger, wiser, more grounded. Not because someone cheered you on, but because you kept showing up for yourself. Healing requires truth, and truth doesn't scream, it whispers. In the quiet, you begin to recognize patterns. You see where you've been sacrificing yourself for others, where you've accepted less than you deserve, where your trauma has shaped your reactions and your relationships. These revelations don't come with fanfare. They come with stillness, with solitude, with space to breathe. Healing in silence also allows you to protect your energy. When you're constantly sharing your pain, your progress, or your process with people who may not truly understand, or worse, who use your vulnerability against you, you're giving away pieces of your healing that should be kept sacred. Not everyone is meant to walk with you through your recovery. Some will misunderstand your silence as weakness or distance. But you know better. You know that silence is where you're gathering strength, where you're rebuilding, and where you're slowly coming back to life. Healing in silence is one of the most powerful and transformative journeys a person can take. It's not about isolating yourself from the world out of bitterness or fear, but about creating the kind of stillness where true recovery can begin. When you're surrounded by noise, external expectations, unsolicited advice, constant distractions, it's difficult to listen to what your soul is actually saying. Healing doesn't happen in the chaos. It happens in the quiet, in the moments when no one is watching, when no one is offering opinions, and when you're finally able to be honest with yourself without the need to perform for others. In silence, you begin to feel things you've avoided. The pain you buried, the wounds you ignored, the emotions you numbed with distractions, these all rise to the surface. And though it can be uncomfortable, this confrontation is necessary. It's about honoring the version of yourself that no longer wants to shrink, settle, or suffer in silence. And as painful as it might be, it's also liberating, because when you let go of what weighs you down, you make space for what lifts you up. In the end, it's not about hate, it's about healing. It's not about bitterness, it's about boundaries. And it's not about rejection, it's about redirect. Walking away is sometimes the most honest way to say, I love myself too much to stay where I'm not respected, valued, or at peace. People will try to make you feel guilty for choosing distance. They'll call you cold, selfish, or disloyal. But they won't always understand the quiet battles you fought behind closed doors. They won't see the tears you hid, the sleepless nights, the internal tug of war between staying and leaving. And they don't have to. Because your healing is not up for debate. You are allowed to choose your peace, your growth, your future, even if it means losing people along the way. Cutting someone off doesn't mean you wish them harm. It doesn't mean you've erased the good memories or denied the impact they once had in your life. It simply means that you've chosen to stop carrying the weight of something that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. When conversations become forced, when presence turns into pressure, and when trust begins to erode quietly, those are all signs that something essential has shifted. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes the distance grows slowly, the silence lingers longer, and the connection just stops feeling like home. And that's okay. Choosing to cut someone off doesn't always come from a place of anger or resentment. Often it comes from a place of deep reflection. You begin to see how much energy you've spent explaining yourself, justifying your feelings, forgiving things that were never acknowledged, and hoping for change that never came. You realize how drained you feel after every interaction, how your boundaries are constantly being tested, and how your peace is consistently compromised. Walking away becomes the only way to reclaim your sense of self. Cutting people off doesn't always mean you hate them. It means you respect yourself enough to walk away from what no longer serves you. In life, we are taught to hold on. We're taught that letting go is a sign of failure, disloyalty, or emotional coldness. But the truth is, sometimes the strongest, most loving thing you can do for yourself is to end a connection that brings more pain than peace, more confusion than clarity, more weight than support. Holding on out of habit, fear, or guilt only delays the inevitable and keeps you stuck in spaces you've long outgrown. Not every person who enters your life is meant to stay. Some people are lessons, some are warnings, and some are simply passing through. And while it can be heartbreaking to accept that, it's far more damaging to keep watering a relationship that has already run its course. When a bond becomes one-sided, the breath before a comeback, the space between being hurt and healing. Silence isn't giving up, it's preparing. It's reclaiming your power in a world that constantly demands your reaction. It's choosing to invest your energy inward, where growth and clarity take root. When you stop trying to prove yourself with words, you start proving yourself with presence. You become someone who doesn't chase validation, but commands respect. Someone who knows that not everything deserves a response. Someone who moves in silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're listening, observing, planning, and rising on their own terms. That is not weakness. That is strategy. That is strength refined by wisdom. People who mistake your silence for weakness are revealing more about themselves than about you. They're showing that they rely on noise to validate their presence, that they measure strength by volume rather than substance. But true power is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to dominate every space. It simply exists, steady and unshakable. The strongest people often speak the least because they're too focused on understanding, healing, building, and protecting their energy. There are moments when silence says more than any words could. It's a refusal to argue with someone who doesn't want to understand. It's the decision to walk away from chaos without explanation. It's the pause before a life-changing decision. You listen more, you watch more, and you pick up on things that others miss. You begin to understand not just what is said, but what is unsaid. The body language, the hidden motives, the inconsistencies. You notice who truly listens and who simply waits for their turn to talk. You see who respects your silence and who tries to fill it because they're uncomfortable with depth. Strategic silence also teaches self-control. It means not giving into every impulse to speak just because you're angry, hurt, or provoked. It means holding your words until they have weight, until they're necessary, until they serve a purpose. In silence, you gather your power instead of scattering it in every direction. You learn to protect your emotions by not laying them bare for people who won't understand or appreciate them. You choose when to speak and whom to speak to, and that choice is where your authority lies. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. In a culture that celebrates loudness, loud opinions, loud actions, loud personalities, it's easy to mistake quietness for powerlessness. People often believe that if you're not speaking up constantly, defending yourself, or making noise, you must be hiding, unsure, or lacking confidence. But real strength often speaks in silence. It's in the ability to stay calm when others are chaotic, to think clearly when others are impulsive, and to choose stillness when provocation demands reaction. Silence is the space where the mind becomes sharp, where emotions settle, and where decisions are made with precision rather than panic. There is a kind of intelligence that grows in silence, the kind that doesn't rush to respond, doesn't need to be right immediately, and doesn't seek approval through noise. When you're silent, you have the advantage of observation. You're no longer interested in proving yourself in spaces where you are not seen, heard, or appreciated. You've learned that inner calm is more valuable than winning an argument or being right. And in that calm, you find clarity. You start to make decisions from a grounded place instead of a reactive one. You begin to attract better situations, better people, and better energy because you're no longer vibrating at the level of chaos. Peace is a decision, and it is a discipline. It requires conscious effort to not let others disrupt your inner world. But every time you choose it, you strengthen your emotional resilience. You become the stillness in the storm, the calm in the noise, the anchor in the waves. You become someone who no longer needs to control everything around them because they've learned how to master. And that kind of peace, steady, quiet, unshakable, is the foundation for a life of true strength and fulfillment. It feeds off attention. When you choose silence, detachment, and calmness in the face of provocation, you cut off its fuel source. People may try to pull you into their emotional storms because they don't know how to manage their pain. Misery seeks company, and when someone is drowning in their own unresolved issues, they often look for someone to drag down with them. It takes real strength to say, "No, I will not be part of this," and remove yourself. That choice isn't always easy. Sometimes you'll want to defend yourself, to explain your side, to make things right. but peace often requires letting go of the need to be understood by everyone. It means valuing your mental and emotional stability more than your pride. Choosing peace is also an act of deep self-respect. It tells the world and yourself that you know your worth. You're no longer available for unnecessary tension, manipulation, or toxic cycles. When you reclaim your space, you start to hear your own voice again. You begin to dream more freely, think more clearly, and feel more deeply. You realize that peace is not just the absence of conflict, it's the presence of alignment. It's being surrounded by energy that feels safe, not heavy. It's waking up and not feeling dread. It's knowing that your life reflects who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. This isn't always easy. People might resist your boundaries. Some may call you distant, cold, or selfish. But remember, anyone who truly values you will respect your need to protect your peace. You are not here to be everything for everyone. You are here to live authentically, to grow, and to exist in a way that feels right for you. Reclaiming your space is not about isolation. It's about alignment. It's about building a life that reflects your truth, not one that revolves around the expectations or chaos of others. When you reclaim your space, you start to hear your own voice again. You begin to dream more freely, think more clearly, and feel more deeply. You realize that peace is not just the absence of conflict, it's the presence of alignment. It's being surrounded by energy that feels safe, not heavy. It's waking up and not feeling dread. It's knowing that your life reflects who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. This isn't always easy. People might resist your boundaries. Some may call you distant, cold, or selfish. But remember, anyone who truly values you will respect your need to protect your peace. You are not here to be everything for everyone. You are here to live authentically, to grow, and to exist in a way that feels right for you. Reclaiming your space is not about isolation. It's about alignment. It's about building a life that reflects your truth, not one that revolves around the expectations or chaos of others. It's that deep, sometimes painful realization that you've been shrinking yourself to fit into places where you don't belong, keeping the peace externally while falling apart internally. Reclaiming space means making the conscious decision to stop betraying yourself for the comfort or approval of others. This process often begins quietly. You stop responding to every message. You step away from social situations that drain you. You clean your environment, simplify your schedule, and create time to reconnect with what actually matters to you. And with every boundary you set, with every intentional choice you make, you reclaim a piece of your peace. That peace isn't loud or dramatic. It's subtle, steady, and healing. It's in the moments where you sit alone and feel whole. It's in the clarity you find when you remove what was clouding your mind. It's in the calm you experience when you no longer feel pulled in directions that conflict with your spirit. Reclaiming your space is a powerful step toward inner peace and control over your life. In a world that constantly tries to pull you in 100 directions, where everyone seems to have an opinion about who you should be, how you should act, and what you should prioritize, it's easy to lose yourself. Your space, emotional, mental, physical, is sacred. Yet so many people allow it to be invaded by negativity, comparison, unnecessary obligations, or relationships that no longer serve them. Reclaiming your space means choosing to take that sacred ground back. It's a declaration that your life belongs to you. Taking your space back starts with awareness. It's the moment you realize that you've been operating on autopilot, doing things out of habit, maintaining relationships out of guilt, saying yes when your entire being is begging you to say no. You owe it to yourself to draw lines, to decide who gets your time and who doesn't, to filter the energy you allow into your space. Just because someone has known you for a long time or holds a certain title in your life doesn't mean they're entitled to a piece of you whenever they choose. Access should be earned through mutual respect, trust, and balance, not assumed out of habit or obligation. You also don't have to explain your silence. There will be days when you don't feel like talking, when you need to recharge, when you want to sit with your thoughts in peace, and that is valid. You don't need to feel guilty for not replying, for stepping away, or for choosing stillness over engagement. The world will keep spinning. People will adjust, and those who truly respect and understand you will never question your need for space. To pull back from relationships or situations that deplete you. Your energy is a finite resource. If you give it away too freely, too often, you'll find yourself drained, bitter, and disconnected from your own needs. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's necessary for survival and well-being. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Some people only come around when they want something. Some thrive on drama, guilt, or emotional dependence. Others may unconsciously take more than they give. If you are constantly expected to explain your silence, justify your absence, or manage someone else's feelings while ignoring your own, you are being emotionally overextended. And when that becomes a pattern, it damages your mental health and self-worth. You do not owe anyone constant access to your energy or emotions. One of the most liberating truths you can embrace is that your life, your time, and your mental space are yours to protect. In today's hyper-connected world, there is a subtle expectation that we should always be available, ready to answer messages, explain ourselves, engage in every conversation, and give pieces of ourselves whenever asked. But this expectation is neither fair nor sustainable. You are not a machine designed to respond to every demand. You are a human being with limits, emotions, and a right to privacy. People may expect you to be constantly open, constantly giving, constantly present in their lives, but that is not a requirement you have to meet. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to say no, to go offline. You start to cultivate self-discipline, resilience, and emotional independence. You learn that your worth is not tied to how many people are around you or how often your phone lights up. You begin to find comfort in your own presence, and that is a rare kind of strength. When you're able to sit with yourself, truly sit without distractions, you unlock a level of self-awareness and maturity that cannot be taught, only experienced. Intentional solitude is not about pushing the world away permanently, but about stepping back long enough to realign. It is a reset, a return to center. It is where you gain the clarity needed to make better decisions, to choose healthier relationships, and to live in alignment with your values. It's not selfish to need that time. It's essential. Because only when you are clear within yourself can you offer anything real to the world around. You remember the dreams you've shelved. You become more honest about the things you've been tolerating. You learn how to sit with your feelings rather than escape them. Solitude also sharpens creativity. Many of the world's most brilliant minds created their best work in periods of isolation. This is not a coincidence. Creativity requires space, mental, emotional, and spiritual. When you're not distracted by constant conversations or digital noise, your imagination starts to roam freely. You begin to connect dots, generate new ideas, and explore parts of yourself you didn't even know existed. You become more resourceful, more thoughtful, more connected to your inner world. Growth in solitude is often quiet, unseen by others, but it is profound. Intentional solitude fosters clarity, creativity, and growth. In a world that constantly pushes us toward interaction, stimulation, and connection, taking time to be alone is often seen as strange or even unhealthy. But solitude, when chosen mindfully, is not loneliness. It is a powerful space where transformation happens. When you remove yourself from the noise of daily life, you give your mind the rare chance to think deeply, to breathe freely, and to understand who you truly are without the influence of others. When you're alone, you begin to recognize your own voice again, the one that gets drowned out by opinions, comparisons, and expectations. You start to realize what you want, the pressure to perform, to explain, to constantly be available, fades. And in that silence, insight begins to rise. Walking away doesn't mean you're weak or selfish. It means you are strong enough to choose yourself. It means you're finally listening to that quiet voice inside that's been asking for rest, for safety, for space to heal. And even though it might feel lonely at first, that silence eventually fills with freedom. You begin to rebuild your identity, your boundaries, your peace. Cutting contact is not just an end, it's a beginning of living life on your own terms, surrounded by people who truly see you, support you, and value your presence, not just your availability. And as much as we want to believe we can change them or that they will eventually realize their wrongs, we cannot fix people who don't want to be fixed. We cannot keep setting ourselves on fire to keep others warm. Cutting contact isn't about revenge, hatred, or coldness. It's about setting a boundary so you can breathe again. It's about realizing that peace is more valuable than approval. Sometimes the only way to protect your mental and emotional well-being is to step away from what hurts, even if it once felt like home. You start to understand that love isn't always enough when respect is missing, when communication turns toxic, or when presence becomes a burden rather than a blessing. Cutting contact can be an act of self-preservation, especially from toxic or draining relationships. It's never easy to walk away from people who have been part of your life, friends, partners, even family members. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to create distance. There are moments when holding on becomes more damaging than letting go, when the constant effort to maintain a connection drains your spirit, clouds your judgment, and leaves you feeling empty or lost. We often feel obligated to stay connected out of guilt, loyalty, or fear of being seen as heartless. But the truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Some people feed off your energy without giving anything in return. Some manipulate, belittle, or emotionally exhaust you under the disguise of care or love. The world rewards the loud, but the wise often live in the quiet. Choosing silence is not surrender, it's strategy. It's knowing that your energy is sacred and doesn't need to be spent explaining, defending, or proving anything. It's allowing the noise of the world to pass while you sit still, anchored in your own presence. And from that stillness, strength grows, quietly, steadily, and powerfully. When we are silent, we give ourselves the space to listen, truly listen, not just to others, but to ourselves. We start to notice the thoughts running in the background, the buried feelings, the ideas we ignored while we were too busy trying to keep up with the world. In the absence of noise, we meet the truth, unfiltered. We learn what matters and what doesn't. Silence creates a room where healing begins because we are no longer distracted by the voices and expectations of others. Moreover, silence helps us observe. You can learn more about people by what they say when you're quiet than you can by speaking. You begin to see patterns, true intentions, and who shows up when you're no longer available to entertain or please. You gain clarity about the people around you and about yourself. And in that clarity, there is peace. Silence is a form of strength, not weakness. It allows space for deep reflection and healing. In a society where noise is constant and everyone seems to be speaking louder just to be heard, choosing silence is often misunderstood. People assume that being quiet means you have nothing to say, or that you're retreating out of fear or uncertainty. But in reality, silence can be one of the most powerful responses a person can offer. It takes more courage to remain silent in a moment of chaos than it does to shout back. Silence allows for control over your words, over your emotions, and most importantly, over the direction of your energy.